For more on this, we're now joined by political analyst Dr. Imraan Buccus, and he joins us now to reflect on the political landscape. He joins us via our video link. Dr. Imraan, thank you so much for your time. I mean, it has been a very busy day today for various political parties, and that's because it's the eve of the swearing in of members of parliament and the voting in of a speaker, deputy speaker, as well as the president. What do you make of these political formations at this moment, just on the eve, before we see the election of the president?
Well, I think it doesn't come as a complete surprise. I think listening to Malema speak a short while ago, he does make sense in terms of what he talks about, around rejecting the GNU. So I don't think it comes as a complete surprise that we have the ANC, DA, IFP, GNU, if you like, a coalition at the national level. Of course, these parties have a number of contradictions, ideologically and otherwise. But I think there is room for those contradictions to be worked on, to be accommodated. When one thinks about the EFF, and particularly the examples that Malema cited, right? He spoke about minimum wage, he spoke about, student loans, etc. Ideologically, the DA and the EFF would have been on completely different pages. He's right, the DA is perhaps right-wing economically, neoliberal, and the EFF would have wanted state intervention, to act in the interests of masses of people, and maybe addressing those contradictions for the EFF, if it were to be in the coalition, would have been a lot more difficult. With the ANC, I think it has the broad spectrum of our politics, and arguably I'd contend that managing those contradictions between the ANC and DA might be a lot easier.
And when it comes to the ANC, how do you think they have handled the formation of this government of national unity?
Well, I think, again, the balance of forces in the NEC would have dictated. We know from what we've heard already that there was significant support for the EFF and moving in that direction. And so too would there have been, a pocket in the ANC, perhaps people aligned to President Ramaphosa, a social democratic faction, if you like, that would have wanted the DA. And of course, the direction that President Ramaphosa goes in is the idea of being conciliatory and positing the idea of a GNU. So I think he had very little choice, and that kind of positioning would have been the strategic one. I think it's an imperfect solution. But remember, in '94, we had a very polarized context. And the kind of GNU, of course, the context we have today is very different. But in that polarized context in '94, the kind of GNU we had was able to tide us over. And although dissimilar, the hope is that this GNU will also tide us over in this very fragmented political context that we find ourselves in.
Let's take a look at the likes of KwaZulu-Natal, where the MK party has the majority, but of course not an outright majority. And now the sentiments are coming out from the EFF and Julius Malema saying that they should be allowed to govern that province. But these are not the same sentiments that the party shared during local government elections. When you look at how far negotiations are with the ANC, the DA, the NFP, and as well as the IFP in that province, does it seem as if the MK party may be left out in the cold?
Yes, you're right. Of course, not many of us expected MK to get as much as 45%, but I think this speaks to the disillusionment of the electorate. Arguably one could say, well, bearing in mind that they got 45%, they should be part of the provincial administration. But, the reality of parliamentary politics is that getting 45% is neither here nor there. The idea is you need to engage with other parties. You need to be able to strike up a coalition. I mean, that's the cut and thrust of politics nationally and provincially. I think the other hugely important point to bear in mind when it comes to KZN and MK is that this party is seemingly in complete disarray. One would not be surprised if there's some kind of implosion within the party in the coming days. We need to bear in mind that many of the people vying for positions in MK have been in the political wilderness for the last few years, and would really want those positions in order to facilitate their own social mobility. So I think a lot is at stake. I think MK is not likely to take lightly the idea of just being on the periphery and on the opposition benches. And in large part, this would be about, access to social mobility, access to the public purse. So I think we're in for a rough ride in the coming days and weeks.
And when it comes to, any surprises, I mean, a lot of people have said that former President Jacob Zuma is full of tricks and full of surprises. Tomorrow, come the legislature in KwaZulu-Natal, one would ask, can we expect any surprises there when it comes to the formation of a government?
I think we can. We know that there are synergies between the ANC and MK. There might also be synergies between the IFP and MK. So I think it all goes down to how voting occurs tomorrow. It is likely that, we could be surprised in terms of how that voting could occur. I don't think, even though it's by secret ballot, that it's going to be too difficult to tell if an ANC or IFP vote had gone in a particular direction. But certainly, I think the machinations of politics in KZN are complex, and there is a likelihood that the surprise that many people are talking about could really be about the way in which people vote tomorrow.
All right, Dr. Imraan, thank you so much for your time and for your analysis. That is Dr. Imraan Buccus, a political analyst there, just giving us an insight when it comes to what we can expect for the 7th administration.